The key phrase I always use is fail to prepare, prepare to fail. If you're on these environments and things go wrong, either bad weather sets in or you get an unexpectedly high tide or something else happens, once you're out there, it's often too late to do anything about it. So you have to do your preparation, know your environment. Things like safe access routes and safe exit routes. You haven't got time to think once a tide starts coming in quicker or higher than you expected. Tides are absolutely a key feature of estuary environments. Tide tables are your absolute Bible for shooting on sites like this. But they will only give you a predicted reading for each day. They will give you the time of the predicted high tide and the predicted height. Now, the predicted height can change markedly in response to weather conditions. If you get a strong wind onshore, or if you get a very low atmospheric pressure, that can literally put 3 or 4 feet on the height of a predicted high tide. So what you thought was going to be a nice, safe, comfortable gutter to shoot from, all of a sudden you'll be in a very, very uncomfortable position indeed. So they're only a partial guide. They must be read in conjunction with the weather forecast, and there are some very, very good websites which actually give you accurate surge forecasts for the next 2 or 3 days ahead of your shooting visit. One of the most underrated and overlooked pieces of wildfowling equipment is the humble wading staff. And these are vital for several reasons. Firstly, if you're walking across an area that you can see behind me, which is quite thick in vegetation, a marsh like this can be crisscrossed with tiny little gutters that are hidden by the vegetation, ankle breakers we call them. If you step into one of those, they can easily trip you up. Secondly, they can also be used where you've got soft mud. They can be a very useful guide. You can just physically stick them into the mud to test how firm a piece of mud is going to be and if it's safe to walk on. And thirdly, and most importantly, they can judge. You can use them to judge the depth of a piece of water. If you're wading across a tidal creek which is partially filled with water, or any other bit of water, you can physically prod the depth and find out how deep that water is and if it's safe to walk across. It is very advisable to carry a compass, and more importantly with a compass to know how to use one as well. If you can just take a basic bearing roughly in the direction where you walked on from, and you know that north or south or wherever is roughly the seawall where you can get to safety, so much the better. That's also very, very useful if a sudden fog or mist descends on the marsh, because these are very, very featureless places. You have nothing obvious to take a bearing from, a visual cue or a visual guidance, so a compass will help you out. As too will many of the modern handheld GPS units that walkers and ramblers use. I myself have actually got a GPS and I use it on the marsh. You can, as you're walking to a site, you can put waypoints on the GPS which can guide you around many obstacles such as creeks or areas that you'd rather avoid, maybe areas of soft mud or particularly slippy or muddy creeks. And you can plot a route around these features to get you to where you want to be with much less effort. If you do find yourself on the marsh in a very, very dangerous situation, if you carry a mobile phone, then you can simply call the Coast Guard. Although I always carry one, do bear in mind that they are very, very, very fragile bits of kit. They are very susceptible to being damaged by water, and these are, let's face it, very wet environments. The battery can suddenly run out of charge. You need to have the backup, the knowledge, the experience of how to get off a marsh safely. Do not rely on a mobile phone, but they're very useful bits of kit to have with you. One of the things I love about wildfowling, apart from anything else, is the fact that the club network provides such a massive resource of knowledge, local expertise, and every club has some form of educational programme. It could be a probationary member programme. They all do a very, very good job of educating the younger members, the new people to wildfowling, into the ways of the club and the conditions of a local marsh, and you know, those kinds of things where if you're on a certain gutter, a tide of about 25 foot might make it to that mark, but a tide of 30 foot might go over, so it's not safe. Those kinds of information that you can only regain by hours and hours and hours of experience in the field. They're all on tap in your wildfowling club from these fantastically experienced members.